Hey guys, how's it going? It's Rob Sutton, and this is the PINTER 3. It's an extract-based home brewing kit that you can get fresh beer at home without going through the hassle of all the boils and all the other steps of the home brewing process. So we're gonna go ahead and try it out here and see how the beer comes out going through the entire process. So guys, I have done home brewing in the past. I've had friends that had pretty elaborate setups, and we would have all-day brewing sessions on Saturdays and really enjoyed the entire process of going through and making beer on our own and seeing how it came out. Now, for a lot of people, you might not want to go through that entire process. So what the PINTER does is make this incredibly simple to do at home without having to do all of those multiple steps. Now, I've never used this before in the past, so it's gonna be kind of a fun process to go through and see how the beer comes out at the end. So as mentioned, you buy these kits online and they come with several different things in the packet. So first off, you have your extract that's actually gonna go into the brewer. And in this case, we got the Space Hopper Double IPA, so we'll see how that comes out. Secondly, you have your purifier. So we're going to have to go ahead and clean this unit before we put any water and extract into the unit itself. So we need to make sure it's really clean inside. If you have brewed beer before, you know contaminated water will ruin a beer faster than anything else. So we're gonna do this process very carefully and make sure it's thoroughly clean before we start it. And then thirdly, you have your yeast that you'll be putting in this process as well. Now, obviously PINTER knows that this is going to be a first-time brewing process for a lot of people. So what they did was create an app to make things a little bit easier on you to go through the step-by-step process. So it's pretty easy to set up. You go ahead and register your PINTER on the app itself, and then you can start your brewing process after you select the beer that you are going to be brewing in the PINTER itself. So let's go ahead, open the app, go through the step-by-step process, and we'll check in at each step of the process to show you what has been done, and then finally taste the beer after the brewing process is over. So let's get at it. All right guys, for the first step here, you gotta turn this carbonation dial to 5. Then we have to spin the unit around and remove all the parts here so we can actually get the water in and start purifying. Then double check the tap collar here and make sure it is fully tight. Then we're going to go ahead and add the purifier to the PINTER. Then we're going to go ahead and fill this up with hot water to the black line. We go ahead and we make sure the conical is actually fitted to the main cap and screw the main cap back on. Then we shake it for 30 seconds to make sure it all gets clean and mixed together. All right, then we're actually going to attach this brewing dock so it can get cleaned as well. Make sure everything's aligned as it should be, and then turn it over for 10 seconds and wait. Now we're going to purify the brewing dock by unbolting it from the PINTER. Now we're going to set the conditioning dial to off and purify that as well. Now it's time to attach the handle so we can purify the tap. And then now we can go ahead and empty the PINTER. So as you can see, that was a pretty straightforward purifying process. Everything bolts on pretty easily on and off. So now it's actually time to start the brewing process. All right, so we'll start off setting the conditioning dial to 5. Then we're going to go ahead and fill this with cold water up into the black line. I am going to use filtered water for this to try to get the cleanest possible outcome. All right, now it's time to take this Space Hopper Fresh Press and go ahead and add it into the PINTER itself. Go ahead and squeeze every single last bit of it out. You don't want to leave anything in there. Tell you what, it actually smells pretty good. Then now it's time to go ahead and add the yeast. Now this specific brew does not actually add a hopper to it. You do have some of the IPAs and some other of the beers that you can make with this PINTER that actually comes with a little container that actually has an added hop kick to it. We don't have that one with this beer, so we're just gonna go on to the next step. So let's go ahead and screw on the main cap. And then once again, we're going to shake it to get everything mixed up and mixed together. All right, now it's time to attach our brewing dock. And at this point, we're just gonna turn it over. All right, now that everything's mixed up and in the PINTER, it's actually starting the brewing process. And for this one, it actually recommends 7 days of sitting just like this at room temperature. So what we're gonna do is let this sit for a week, and then we'll come back and do the next step in the process. And as I mentioned, the app does have a nice calendar for you where you can figure out exactly what you need to do without having to do any guesswork. And we'll just go ahead and follow the instructions exactly as they put them in here and see how it turns out. So we'll see you in a week. All right, guys, so the brewing stage is complete. We need to move on to the conditioning stage, which is pretty simple. All we have to do is unlock this bottom collar in the sink, let all the kind of residue out, clean everything up, and then actually drop this into the refrigerator and start the conditioning stage. That's going to be about another week on this particular brew. So let's get at it. All right, so now the conditioning process is done, so I guess there's really only one thing left to do. It's time to try it. So yeah, guys, it's a pretty decent double IPA. Tastes just about what I was expecting, which is kind of that run-of-the-mill double IPA, not too fruity, not too West Coast hoppy, just kind of runs you right down the middle. Overall, good tasting beer out of a fresh setup right here in my bar. A couple of things I will note though. I think this beer needed a little bit more time in the brewing process. That's not the fault of the PINTER 3. I actually had to pull this one about 12 hours early because I had to unexpectedly go out of town for a week. So I probably would have had this one sit maybe even a day or two over, let that yeast and everything else settle just a little bit more before it actually went into the conditioning phase. Now there are a bunch of other flavors. I do actually have the stout in as well, which I'm going to try. I'll probably link something up in like the community section of the YouTube page to let you guys get an update on that as well. But overall, it's a good tasting beer with a really easy process if you're looking to have a homebrewish style setup at your house that isn't overly complicated. I do also like the overall design of the PINTER 3. It looks good sitting up here on the bar. So when you bring it out of the fridge and you have people over and they want to just be able to tap a beer right there off the bar, it is a cool little setup that actually looks good when it's sitting out here in the bar and you're entertaining. I also do like the fact that they have the app that actually has the calendar and alerts on it so that you don't have to worry about whether or not you're giving it enough time or not. It makes it very easy during this process to just get an alert on your phone and go, oh, hey, wait, it's time to put it into the conditioning stage. So there is no guesswork when it actually comes into making the beers themselves. If you've ever homebrewed yourself, you know there's a lot of trial and error and testing and time when you actually just get it through the app, and it makes it super simple to set this up and let it run. So I guess all we have left to do is actually finish this one out and then start the stout that I also got as well. So the last step of this process is actually to finish the beer that's in here, obviously, but then also clean it back out so it's ready for that next beer and the next process. Overall though, really like this overall setup. It's extremely easy to use. So who is this actually for? And I can see it kind of in multiple aspects here. One, if you want just fresh beer at your house out of a tap, this is super simple. All you have to do is just pour everything in and you let it sit essentially. So if you're not wanting to go through that entire home brewing process, this is a really kind of just a gateway drug into having fresh beer at your house that is pretty cheap per pint because the overall package, when you actually cut it down by price, is really inexpensive. Now, who else could this be for? As I mentioned, this could be a gateway drug for people. If you're wanting to get into the home brewing process, but you really only want to step your toe into the pond at first, this is a great way to get started. It also looks pretty cool out on a table if you're having people over to be able to tap a beer right off the bar here. So if you're looking to get into home brewing, but want to take baby steps, this is a great way to get into it at home and then kind of work your way into the more complicated processes that you can actually do in homebrewing. And then the other thing I can see is this actually might be a great complement to a really nice homebrew setup. If you want just a small batch of something that you can just tap, readily available, easy to do. So yeah, guys, overall, it was a fun process. And you get to have fresh beer at home, right out of your fridge, that you wouldn't be able to do without doing some more complicated things that would take a lot more time and basically smell up your house or your garage. And you're not having to worry about storing gallons of it. This is a great option as well, and it's kind of a cool beer accessory to go along with any other home brewing kit. So guys, I want to hear what you think down in the comment section below. Is this something you can see yourself using or buying in your house? Are you looking to get into homebrewing yourself? Would this be a good way to get started? Hit up the comment section below. I'll answer any questions that you might have about this as well. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to Rob Sutton for more videos like this in the future. And until then, on to the next one. Thanks guys, see ya.